She didn't scream. That was the first thing Ethan Cole registered when he saw her being dragged across the polished lobby floor, her wheelchair tipped sideways, her body half collapsed against the marble. She didn't cry out. She didn't fight. She just went still, the way prey goes still when it understands that moving will only make the wound worse. Ethan had done 3 tours. He had seen men who had stopped feeling pain. He recognized the look, and the moment he saw it on her face, something in his chest broke open and would not close again. If this story already has your heart racing, you are exactly where you belong. Subscribe to this channel and follow every part of this story to the end. And drop a comment telling me what city you are watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Ethan Cole had not planned on stopping that morning. He was running the coastal path the way he ran it every day before his shift. Steady pace. Headphones in Rex, moving alongside him with that loose-shouldered trot that meant the dog was calm, but alert. Rex was always alert. That was the thing about German Shepherds that most people never understood. They did not relax the same way other dogs did. They watched. They processed. And sometimes before Ethan's own brain had caught up to what his eyes were seeing, Rex would already be repositioning his body. That was what happened at exactly 7:14 in the morning outside the Hargrove Grand Hotel. Rex stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. All 4 paws planted, his amber eyes fixed on something through the hotel's glass entrance, his ears forward and rigid. Ethan pulled out one earbud. "What is it, boy?" Rex didn't answer, obviously. But the low sound that came from the back of his throat was not a growl. It was something quieter than a growl, which Ethan had learned over 4 years of partnership was actually more serious. Then Ethan saw what Rex had already seen. A man in a gray suit had a woman's arm locked in both of his hands, and he was pulling her across the lobby with the kind of controlled force that looked from a distance like a husband helping a wife who had stumbled. Her wheelchair was on its side 3 feet behind them. One of its wheels was still spinning. She was not fighting. She was not screaming. She was simply being moved the way a piece of furniture gets moved, and the expression on her face was one Ethan had seen exactly twice before in his life. Once on a 16-year-old kid who had been held at gunpoint for 6 hours. Once on a Marine who had survived something he never spoke about again. It was the expression of a person who had made peace with the idea that this was just how things were now. Ethan was through the lobby doors before he had made a conscious decision to move. "Sir?" His voice came out flat and professional, the tone he used on scenes when he needed compliance without escalation. "Sir, I need you to stop." The man in the gray suit turned, and Ethan got his first full look at Adrian Wolfe. He was handsome. That was the honest truth of it, and it was the kind of handsome that came with practice. The kind of face that had spent decades learning exactly what expression to wear in every room. He had dark hair, pale eyes, and a smile that arrived before any other part of his face responded. "Officer," Adrian said, and his voice was warm and steady and completely unsurprised. "I am so sorry. My fiancé had a dizzy spell. She gets them sometimes. Lena, sweetheart, tell the officer you are okay." The woman Lena turned her face toward Ethan. She had dark circles beneath her eyes that makeup had not fully covered. She had a small healing cut at the corner of her bottom lip that she had probably told someone she got from walking into a cabinet. Her left wrist was wrapped in a brace that could have been from a fall, or could have been from something else entirely. She opened her mouth, and then her eyes flicked to Adrian just briefly, just for a fraction of a second, and she closed it again. "I am fine," she said. "I just lost my balance. I am sorry for the trouble." Ethan did not move. "Ma'am, my name is Officer Cole. I am off duty right now, but I want to make sure you are all right. Is there anything you need?" Something crossed her face. It was fast. It was the kind of thing you would miss if you were not already watching for it. A flicker of want, maybe. Or recognition. Like she had heard that question before, and had spent a long time learning the right answer to it, which was not the true one. "No," she said. "Thank you, really." Adrian stepped forward and placed his hand on Lena's shoulder, and the way Lena's body responded to that touch, The almost invisible brace the micro-flinch absorbed before it could become visible told Ethan everything he needed to know about the architecture of their relationship. "We have a busy morning," Adrian said pleasantly. "Our engagement celebration begins at noon. But thank you, officer. It is good to know the community has such dedicated people." He smiled. He reached down and righted the wheelchair with the ease of a man who had done it many times. And he settled Lena back into it with what looked on the surface like tenderness. Rex sat at Ethan's left knee and did not take his eyes off Adrian Wolfe. Ethan reached into the back pocket of his running shorts and found what he was looking for. A department card slightly bent from his run with his name and direct line printed on the front. He held it out to Lena. Adrian's hand moved toward it, first a reflex, but Ethan turned his body just enough to place the card directly in Lena's hand before anything could intercept it. "In case you ever need anything," Ethan said. "Anything at all." Lena looked down at the card. Her fingers folded around it once tightly, like she was checking to make sure it was real. "Thank you," she said again, and this time the word meant something different. Adrian wheeled her toward the elevator without another word. Ethan stood in that lobby for a long moment. Rex pressed against his leg, both of them watching the elevator doors close. Then he took out his phone and called the station. "It is Cole. I need you to run a name for me. Adrian Wolfe. Spell it like it sounds, and pull anything connected to the Hargrove Grand Hotel." The officer on dispatch said, "You're off duty, Ethan." "I know," Ethan said. "Run it anyway." He had been a cop for 9 years. He had been a SEAL before that. He knew how to read the difference between a woman who was clumsy and a woman who had been trained over time by fear to look like she was clumsy. The call came back in 6 minutes. Adrian Wolfe, 41 years old, regional director of a private investment group, no criminal record, not so much as a parking ticket. 2 prior relationships on public record. One ended in divorce. One ended when the woman Amaya Torres moved out of state without forwarding her address. Clean on paper. Completely, perfectly, deliberately clean on paper. Ethan called his partner next. Detective Sarah Mitchell answered on the second ring with, "You are not supposed to be working." "I am not working. I am asking a friend a question." "Your questions always end with me doing paperwork, Cole." "Maya Torres," he said. "Former girlfriend of a man named Adrian Wolfe. She relocated approximately 18 months ago, no forwarding address. I need to know where she went and why she left." A pause. He could hear Sarah thinking, which sounded like a pen tapping against a desk. "You saw something," she said. "I saw enough. Give me a few hours." He spent those hours doing the thing he was supposed to be doing, which was preparing for his shift, reviewing case notes, running Rex through his morning protocol. But part of his mind stayed in that lobby, turning over the image of Lena Hart's fingers, closing around his card, holding on to it, like it was the first thing, in a long time, that had felt like a choice. Sarah called back at 11:47. "Maya Torres," she said, and her voice had changed. It had the particular flatness she used when she was delivering information that made her angry. "She is living under a different name in Portland. I found her through a women's advocacy network contact. She agreed to talk to me because I told her I was calling about Adrian Wolfe." "What did she say?" "She said he never hit her, not once. She said he was too smart for that." Ethan felt the cold spread through his chest. She said he did everything else, controlled her medications, isolated her from her family, convinced her that the anxiety she had always struggled with was actually unmanaged psychosis, and that without him to help her manage it, she would end up institutionalized. "How did she get out?" "Her sister drove 14 hours to get her." Sarah paused. "Ethan?" She said she was with him for 3 years before she understood what was happening to her. And even after she left, she said she spent another year half convinced that he had been right about her. Rex pressed his nose against Ethan's hand. Ethan looked at the hotel, which was still visible from where he had parked its glass face, reflecting the mid-morning light. "He has an engagement celebration at noon," he said. "I know. He is going to marry her." "I know that too." The silence between them was not empty. It was the kind of silence two people share when they both understand the shape of a problem, and neither one of them is willing to say yet that the problem might be bigger than they can solve before noon. "I need you to find out everything you can about Lena Hart," Ethan said. "Next of kin, medical history if it is accessible, whether she has any support system outside of him, and if she has no one." Ethan watched a car pull up to the hotel entrance, watched a valet move to open the door, watched the ordinary machinery of a beautiful day continuing to turn, while somewhere inside that building, a woman sat in a wheelchair and wore a smile she had been taught to wear and pressed a bent card between her palms, wondering if she was brave enough to use it. "Then she has us," he said. Rex lifted his head and looked at the hotel the same way he had looked at it from the coastal path that morning. Steady, patient, completely certain of what he already knew. The card was gone by the time Adrian came back to the room. Lena had tucked it into the lining of her left shoe, the one she wore on the foot that had limited sensation anyway, which meant Adrian would never think to check it there. She had learned over 2 years to hide things in the places he would never look, because he had never bothered to understand which parts of her body still worked and which ones did not. That had always been his blind spot. He saw the wheelchair first and the woman second, and that ordering of attention had on at least 4 occasions saved her life. She was sitting at the vanity when he came in, pretending to fix her earrings. "You were very good downstairs," Adrian said. He said it the way someone compliments a child who behaved well at a dinner party. Lena kept her eyes on the mirror. He was just being kind. He was being nosy. Adrian moved behind her, and she watched his reflection without turning. Cops like that, the ones who think they can read a situation from a 30-second look, they are the dangerous kind. Not dangerous to us, Lena. Dangerous to themselves. They act on feelings instead of facts. She said nothing. She had learned that silence was safer than agreement, because agreement sometimes prompted him to test whether she meant it. "Did you take your medication this morning?" he asked. "Yes." "All of it?" "Yes, Adrian." He watched her in the mirror for a moment longer than was comfortable. Then he kissed the top of her head and told her the car would be ready in an hour. She waited until she heard the bathroom door close. Then she pressed her fingers against the inside of her shoe and felt the small rectangle of the card still there. And she exhaled slowly through her nose, and she thought about the way the officer had turned his body deliberately to block Adrian's reach. He had noticed. In 30 seconds, he had noticed something that her own family had spent 2 years explaining away. She thought about that for a long time. Ethan spent his lunch break sitting in his car outside the precinct with a folder Sarah had left on his desk. It was thin. Most of what was in it was absence, which was itself a kind of information. Lena Hart, 34 years old, former high school music teacher, spinal injury from a car accident approximately 2.5 years ago, which had left her with partial mobility and chronic nerve pain, requiring ongoing medication management. No living parents. One brother currently stationed overseas with the Army. A small circle of former friends who had, according to a woman named Dr. Maria Alvarez at the County Rehabilitation Center, gradually stopped being in contact. Ethan read that line twice. Gradually stopped being in contact. He had seen that pattern before in exactly the kinds of relationships he was thinking about. Isolation did not announce itself. It accumulated. A canceled dinner here, an unanswered text there, a slow fading that looked from the outside like a woman who had become understandably private after a traumatic injury, and looked from the inside like walls being built around you by someone else's hands. He called Dr. Alvarez directly. She answered with professional caution until he told her why he was calling. Then her voice changed. "I have been worried about Lena for 8 months, she said, and the words came out with the pressure of something that had been held in for a long time. She was my patient for nearly a year after her accident. Remarkable woman. Disciplined, determined, genuinely funny in that quiet way some people are. And then she started coming in with Adrian, and over about 6 months I watched her just contract." "Contract," Ethan repeated. "Shrink. Become smaller. Start checking his face before she answered my questions. I tried to see her alone. He always had a reason why that was not possible." A pause. I documented everything I observed. But without her coming to me directly, there was nothing I could formally report. She never said a word. Would she talk to you now if you reached out? I have tried twice. Both times she called back from a number I did not recognize, spoke for less than 2 minutes, and said she was doing well. Another pause. The second time she called, I could hear her breathing change when she heard my voice, like she was relieved and terrified at the same time. Ethan pressed the folder closed. Dr. Alvarez, I need you to try one more time, and I need you to tell her something specific. He told her what to say. She was quiet for a moment after he finished. You think she is in immediate danger, she said. I think the engagement celebration is in 3 days, and I think once she is legally his wife, whatever leverage she currently has disappears entirely. The doctor said she would call that afternoon. Sarah appeared at his car window and knocked twice. He rolled it down. You need to hear what I just found, she said, and her face had the expression she wore when information was worse than expected. She got in the passenger seat and put her own folder on the dashboard. Maya Torres's sister, Sarah said, the one who drove 14 hours to get her out. Her name is Isabella Torres. 3 months after Maya relocated, Isabella filed a complaint with the county sheriff's office, alleging that someone had broken into her home and taken specific documents, financial records, medical records, and photographs. Photographs of what? The complaint does not specify, but she withdrew it 10 days later and told the reporting officer she had found the items herself and the break-in had been a misunderstanding. Ethan stared at the folder. He got to her. That is what I think. I cannot prove it. But a woman does not file a detailed burglary report and then withdraw it 10 days later because she found the stuff under her bed. So he has a pattern. He does not just control the women he is with, he controls the people around them. And he does it cleanly, Sarah said. There is not a mark on his record anywhere. Not a restraining order, not a welfare check, not a single official complaint tied to his name. Because the women who might file complaints stop being able to, Ethan said. Sarah looked at him. We have nothing actionable right now, Ethan. You know that. I know. What we have is a bad feeling and a second-hand account from a woman living under a different name in Portland. And a doctor who watched a patient disappear in front of her over 6 months. That is not enough for a warrant. I am not talking about a warrant yet. Sarah studied him. What are you talking about? He looked at the hotel still visible from the precinct lot, if you knew where to look for it. I am talking about making sure Lena Hart knows she has a way out before she decides she does not need one. His phone buzzed on the seat between them. An unknown number. He answered it. For a moment there was only silence and the faint sound of a television playing somewhere in the background. Then a woman's voice barely above a whisper. Is this Officer Cole? Everything in Ethan went still. Beside him, Sarah straightened. Yes, he said. Lena. A breath. Dr. Alvarez said, I could trust you. You can. Another silence. The television in the background was turned up slightly, which he understood was not accidental. She was masking the call. I do not have much time, she said. He checks my phone. Not the number you gave me. He does not know about that one yet. But I cannot talk long. I understand. I am listening. The accident, she said, and then stopped. He waited. It was not an accident, she said. The sentence landed in the car like something physical. Sarah turned and looked at Ethan directly. He kept his voice level. Can you tell me what happened? We had an argument. A real one, the kind I was not supposed to have anymore. I said I wanted to leave. Her voice was controlled, but only barely the way a person sounds when they have rehearsed something many times and are still not sure they can get through it. He drove us home. I was in the passenger seat, and he told me very calmly that if I ever said that again, he would make sure no one would ever believe anything I said afterward. A pause. 3 days later, he ran a red light at 40 miles an hour. Ethan closed his eyes for 1 second. The police report said it was a distracted driver, she continued. He was very helpful at the scene. He held my hand the entire time we waited for the ambulance. He cried. Her voice fractured slightly. He cried, and the paramedics told him he was incredible, and when I woke up in the hospital, he was the first thing I saw. Lena, Ethan said carefully. Are you safe right now in this moment? Right now, yes. He is 2 floors down. I need you to listen to me. What you just told me is important. I want to help you, but I need you to not do anything that changes the way he sees you before I have more in place. Can you do that? I have been doing that for 2 years, she said, and there was something in those words that hit harder than anything else she had said, because it was not bitterness. It was just the plain truth of her life. I know, Ethan said. I am sorry. The wedding is in 4 days, she said. He moved it up. He told me this morning. He said the original date felt too far away. Ethan looked at Sarah. Sarah was already writing. He is watching me more carefully since this morning, Lena said. Since you stopped him in the lobby. I think he is nervous. That is actually good to know. Nervous men make mistakes. Or they speed up their timeline, she said. She was right. And the fact that she was right, the fact that she had thought it through, that clearly told him exactly how long she had been living inside a threat assessment. I am going to reach out to someone, Ethan said. Someone you already trust, and I need you to be available to talk to her when she calls. Dr. Alvarez? Yes. A pause. She is a good person. She thinks the same about you. Something shifted in the quality of her silence. Softer maybe, or more tired. He is charming, she said suddenly. I want you to know that because when this moves forward and people start asking questions, some of them are going to be confused. His friends, his colleagues, the people at the hotel who think he is wonderful. He is going to seem like the victim. I know how this works, Ethan said. Do you? I have seen it before, and I am telling you that it does not change anything on my end. Rex, who had been lying on the back seat through the entire call, lifted his head and put his chin on the center console between Ethan and Sarah. I have to go, Lena said. He will be back up in 10 minutes. Lena, one more thing. He paused. You made the right call. Another silence. Then, I have not decided anything yet. The line went quiet. Sarah sat with her pen still in her hand and said nothing for a moment. Then she said, 4 days. 4 days, Ethan confirmed. Rex exhaled through his nose long and slow and stared at the dashboard like he was working through the same problem they were. The investigation had a clock on it now, and the man they were investigating had spent years making sure that every clock around him ran the way he wanted it to. Dr. Maria Alvarez called Lena at 9 the following morning, and Lena answered on the first ring. That told Ethan everything. A woman who answers on the first ring has been holding the phone and waiting. A woman who has been holding the phone and waiting has already made a decision, even if she has not admitted it to herself yet. Sarah relayed the conversation to him word by word afterward, because Maria had patched her in silently from the start, something they had arranged the night before. Lena had spoken quietly and quickly the way people speak when they are rationing the minutes they have. She told Maria that Adrian had taken her phone that morning under the pretense of upgrading her data plan, had held it for 2 hours, and returned it without explaining what he had looked at. She said she had felt him watching her across the breakfast table, with an attention that was different from his usual attention. More focused, more patient. That is the one that scares me most, Maria told Ethan afterward. When he gets patient. She said when he gets quiet and patient, it means he is planning something, and she cannot see the shape of it yet. Ethan was already in the car. Did she say anything about the wedding arrangements? She said he hired a new event coordinator yesterday without telling her. Someone he brought in from outside the hotel's regular staff. And the ceremony guest list was revised. Her brother's name was removed. Ethan gripped the wheel. Her brother is overseas. Adrian told her it was a clerical error. It was not a clerical error. No, Maria said. It was not. The picture that was forming was not complicated once you knew how to look at it. Adrian Wolfe was not panicking. Panicking men made noise. Adrian was compressing. He was pulling in the edges of his world, tightening the circle, removing variables. Her brother's name off the guest list. A coordinator he controlled instead of one who reported to the hotel. A 2-hour window with her phone. He was not nervous the way Lena had said. He was precise. And precision in a man like this was its own kind of violence. Ethan called Sarah the moment he hung up with Maria. "I need whatever we have on the accident," he said. "The original police report, witness statements, accident reconstruction if there was one." "I already pulled it," Sarah said. "Come in." He was at her desk in 11 minutes. The report was 22 months old. A T-bone collision at a residential intersection, Adrian Wolf listed as the driver, Lena Hart as the passenger. A vehicle running a red light had struck the passenger side at an estimated speed of 38 miles per hour. The at-fault driver was listed as Adrian Wolf. He had been issued a citation for failure to obey a traffic signal. He had paid the fine within 48 hours. There were no further proceedings. The witness statement in the file was from a man named Gerald Pratt, 61 years old, who had been walking his dog at the intersection. He stated that the light had been red for several seconds before the vehicle entered it, and that the driver appeared to have made no attempt to brake. Ethan read that line again. No attempt to brake. He looked up at Sarah. Did anyone follow up with Gerald Pratt after the initial statement? No. The case was civil. Adrian paid the fine, accepted liability, end of matter. Where is Gerald Pratt now? Sarah had already looked. Same address. He is 72 now. Retired electrician. He has a landline. Ethan dialed it from Sarah's desk phone. Gerald Pratt answered on the third ring with the careful hello of a man who had learned to be cautious about unknown numbers, and when Ethan explained who he was and why he was calling, there was a silence on the other end that lasted just long enough to mean something. "I wondered if someone would ever call about that," Gerald said. "Mr. Pratt, I am reading your statement from the night of the accident. You said the driver made no attempt to brake." "That is what I said." "Is that what you saw?" Another pause. "I saw what I saw, officer. I put it in the statement." "I am asking if there is anything you saw that did not make it into the statement." Gerald Pratt was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. "The woman in that car, how is she?" Ethan felt the shift in the conversation, like a current changing direction. "She is alive. She needs help." She screamed before the impact," Gerald said. "Not during, before, like she knew it was coming." A pause. "I have thought about that a lot over the years. I did not put it in my statement because I was not sure what it meant, and I did not want to make trouble for myself with something I could not explain." Ethan kept his voice steady. "You did the right thing calling me today, Mr. Pratt." "I called you back," Gerald said. "I just want that noted." He thanked the man and ended the call and looked at Sarah, who had heard every word. "She screamed before impact," Sarah said, "because she knew it was coming." They sat with that for a moment. "It is still not enough for charges," Sarah said, but her voice had changed. It was not the voice of a detective managing expectations anymore. It was the voice of a woman who was angry. "I know," Ethan said, "but it is enough to know exactly what we are dealing with." Rex, lying under Sarah's desk, got up and nudged Ethan's hand with his nose. The call came at 2:47 in the afternoon from the secondary number, the one Ethan had given Lena on the bent card that now lived in the lining of her shoe. Her voice was different this time, not quieter, tighter, like something had changed in the hours between morning and now. "He found the card," she said. Ethan was on his feet before he realized he had stood up. "Are you hurt?" "No, not yet. He did not find it on me. He found one exactly like it. He was going through his jacket pockets and found the one you handed him." A breath. "Your card. From when you introduced yourself in the lobby. He kept it." Ethan exhaled. The card in her shoe was still safe. "He knows your name," Lena said. "He ran it. He knows you are not just a regular patrol officer. He knows you worked with the department's domestic violence unit for 2 years. The silence that followed had weight to it. Adrian Wolfe had done his research, which meant he was no longer just managing Lena. He was managing Ethan. "Where is he now?" Ethan asked. "On a call downstairs. He told me to rest." She paused. "He brought me flowers this afternoon. He does that when he is recalibrating. He brings flowers, and he is very gentle, and he tells me how much he loves me, and he says things like he cannot imagine the world without me in it." Ethan understood the subtext of that sentence perfectly. Lena, the wedding. He moved it up to 4 days. Is that still the timeline? 3 days now. He confirmed it this morning, day after tomorrow. Listen to me carefully. I need you to do one thing, just one thing and nothing else. Tonight when he is asleep, I need you to take photographs of anything in that room that belongs to him. Documents, a laptop, anything with files or records. You do not need to open anything. Just photograph the surfaces, whatever you can reach. He locks his briefcase. Photograph the briefcase. He will hear me if I move at night. Do you have your phone with you right now? Yes. Take one photograph right now of wherever you are, just to confirm the phone is working and the images are saving. A brief pause. Then, done. Good. That is all I am asking. One photo at a time. Whatever you can do without risk. What are you going to do with photographs? I am going to build the shape of his life on paper, so that when the time comes to move, I already know where everything is. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something he had not expected. Ryan came back. He did not know that name. Who is Ryan? Ryan Brooks. He used to be my student. He is 26 now. He reached out this morning through a message I have not shown Adrian. He saw the engagement announcement online. He said he wanted to congratulate me. She paused. I think he knew something was wrong because I never responded the way I would have responded 2 years ago. Did you respond to him? I told him I was happy. Did he believe you? He said he was going to be in town this week. Ethan turned this over quickly. An unexpected variable, a young man who had known Lena before Adrian, who was already uncertain, who was already circling towards something he could not name. Do not reach out to him again from any number Adrian can access, Ethan said. But if he contacts you first, and if you can do it safely, tell him to call this number. He read his direct line to her slowly twice. Ryan is a good person, she said. I believe you. He used to stay after class to help me carry things, before the accident. He was just that kind of kid. She stopped. I do not want him anywhere near Adrian. He will not be. I will make sure of it. The line was quiet for a moment, and in that quiet, Ethan could hear her breathing, and in her breathing, he could hear everything that words were not saying. The exhaustion, the vigilance, the permanent hum of a nervous system that had not been allowed to rest in 2 years. Officer Cole, she said. Ethan. Another pause. Ethan, what happens if this does not work? He did not give her the reassuring answer because she was too smart for the reassuring answer, and she had been given too many false reassurances already by a man who specialized in them. Then we try something else, he said. And then something else after that. You do not run out of options until I run out of options. And I am not close to that. She did not respond immediately. He could hear her processing it, testing it against whatever internal scale she used to measure whether things people told her were true. Okay, she said finally. It was a small word, and it carried an enormous amount of weight. After the call ended, Ethan sat at his desk and looked at the whiteboard Sarah had set up in the corner of her office, where she had been building a timeline of Adrian Wolfe's relationships and movements over the past 4 years. It was detailed and damning and completely inadmissible in its current form. 3 days. He had 3 days to build something that could stand up, something that could not be withdrawn or explained away or absorbed into the clean surface of a man who had spent years making sure his life looked frictionless. Rex was watching him from across the room. I know, Ethan said to the dog. Rex stood up, shook himself once, and walked to the door. Whatever was coming, it was coming fast. And somewhere on an upper floor of a hotel 2 miles away, a woman with a card hidden in her shoe was taking photographs in the dark and hoping that someone was already building the road she would need to walk out on. Ryan Brooks called at 7 the next morning. Ethan had not slept. He had spent the night at his desk with the whiteboard and a cold cup of coffee and Rex breathing steadily at his feet, and when his phone rang with an unknown number, he answered it on the first word before the ring had finished. "Is this Ethan Cole?" The voice was young and careful, the voice of someone who had rehearsed the question. "It is. Are you Ryan?" A pause. "Lena told me to call you." "I know, thank you for calling. Where are you right now?" "A diner 2 blocks from the hotel. I could not sleep. I have been sitting here since 6. "Stay there. I am coming to you." He told Sarah where he was going, and she told him to take Rex, which he had already planned to do, and he drove the 2 blocks in 4 minutes and found Ryan Brooks in a corner booth looking like a man who had been awake for 2 days and had not touched the coffee in front of him. Ryan was 26 with the kind of open face that made it easy to believe whatever he said. He was not a complicated person, and Ethan could see that immediately, which was actually the best possible thing right now. Complicated people had angles. Ryan was just scared and loyal, and trying to figure out what to do with both. "She looked wrong," Ryan said before Ethan had fully sat down. "In the announcement photos. I know how she smiles. I have known her since I was 16 years old, and she made me stay after class and redo an entire semester of music theory, because she said I was better than I was showing. She has this particular smile she does when something is real." He stopped. The smile in those photos was not that smile. "You are right," Ethan said. "And the fact that you noticed matters." Ryan looked at him. "How bad is it?" Ethan chose his words carefully. "Bad enough that we are working to get her out before tomorrow." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Tomorrow is the wedding." "Yes." "Can you not just arrest him?" "Not yet. We are building toward that." "What does building toward that mean when she is in that hotel with him right now?" It was a fair question, and Ethan did not dismiss it. "It means that if we move too early with not enough, he walks free within 48 hours, and she is in a worse position than she is in right now. It means I need evidence that holds. And it means I need people positioned around her who he does not know about." Ryan looked at Rex, who was sitting beside Ethan, with his chin at table height, watching Ryan with calm amber eyes. "What do you need from me?" Ryan asked. "I need you to be somewhere visible this morning. Somewhere Adrian Wolfe can see you and assess you as harmless. I need him to think you are simply an old student who came to congratulate Lena, nothing more." "You want me to walk into the hotel?" "I want you to walk into the hotel and ask for Lena at the front desk and spend 20 minutes being exactly what you appear to be, a young man who cared about his teacher and wanted to wish her well." Ryan was quiet for a moment. "And while I am doing that, while you are doing that, he is watching you instead of watching something else." Ryan understood. Ethan could see it land behind his eyes. The understanding that he was going to be used as a distraction and his willingness to accept that role, and the fear underneath the willingness that he was careful enough not to show. "What if he does not let me see her?" Ryan asked. "Then you leave politely, and you call me immediately. And if he does let me see her?" Ethan leaned forward slightly. "Then you look her in the eyes, and you say whatever you came to say, and you pay attention to everything she does with her hands." Ryan blinked. Her hands. If she is holding something, if she gives you something, if she presses something into your palm when he is not looking at that particular angle. You put it in your pocket, and you do not look at it until you are out of the building. Ryan stared at him for a moment. Then he nodded once slowly, like a man accepting the weight of something. He walked into the hotel at 8:15. Ethan sat in the car and watched the entrance, and did not breathe normally for the next 22 minutes. Sarah called at 8:31. "The photographs came through," she said. "All 14 of them." Ethan closed his eyes for 1 second. "What did she get?" "Enough. There is a document on the top of his briefcase that she got 3 clear angles on. It is a medical power of attorney. Signed. Dated 2 weeks ago." Ethan felt the cold move through him fast. A medical power of attorney, signed before they were married, which meant that the moment Lena became legally his wife, Adrian Wolfe would have documented pre-prepared authority over every medical decision she would ever face. Her medications, her treatment, her providers, everything that kept her functional and mobile and capable of independent thought. He had that document prepared 2 weeks ago, Ethan said. 2 weeks ago, Sarah confirmed, before he moved the wedding date up. Which means moving the date up was not a sudden romantic impulse. He had already prepared the paperwork. He was always going to accelerate. He was waiting for something to trigger the acceleration. You, Sarah said. You triggered it when you stopped him in that lobby. Ethan sat with that. The weight of it was specific and personal in a way he had not expected. He had done the right thing that morning on the coastal path. He knew that. But the right thing had also shaved days off whatever timeline Lena had left. Can we use the power of attorney document? He asked. Our DA contact says it is legal on its face. Predatory, deeply concerning, but legal. What it does is establish intent. Pattern of control. Combined with Maya Torres's account and Gerald Pratt's statement and Dr. Alvarez's clinical observations, it is building into something. Is it building fast enough? Sarah did not answer immediately. I have a call into the state attorney's office. We have a contact there from the Harmon case last year. She is reviewing what we have. We have until tomorrow morning. I know, Ethan. Ryan came out of the hotel at 8:37. He walked to his car, got in, drove 1 block, and then called. She slipped something into my jacket pocket, he said. His voice was shaking slightly. When Adrian was talking to the event coordinator across the room, she reached over like she was straightening my collar, and she put something in my inside pocket. Drive to the precinct. Do not open it until you are inside with me. It is folded paper. I can feel the edge of it. Ryan, drive to the precinct. He arrived in 8 minutes. Ethan and Sarah were waiting. The folded paper was a single sheet torn from a hotel notepad. Lena had written on it, in small, precise handwriting, the handwriting of a former teacher who had spent years making things legible for other people. She had written 3 things. The first was a web address for a cloud storage account. The second was a password. The third was a sentence that read, "Everything I could find is already uploaded. I started the night you asked me to take photographs." I did not stop. Sarah had her laptop open before Ethan finished reading. The cloud account contained 47 files. Photographs, screenshots of text messages captured in reflections, audio recordings made through a phone left face down on a table, and one 12-minute video that Lena had taken of herself alone, speaking directly into the camera in a voice that did not shake, laying out a precise and chronological account of 2 years of her life. She had named the video file simply in case I cannot say this in person. The room was very quiet while Sarah opened it. Lena's voice came through the laptop speakers low and steady, and she began with the date and her full name and the statement that she was making this recording of her own free will while she was alone. Ryan sat down in a chair against the wall and put his face in his hands. Sarah watched the screen with an expression Ethan recognized. It was the expression she wore when she stopped being a detective and became something more fundamental. At the 9-minute mark, Lena described the morning of the accident. Not differently from what she had told Ethan on the phone, but in more detail. The argument. The specific words Adrian had used. The 3 days of silence that followed. The intersection. She described looking at him in the seconds before impact and understanding in the way the body understands things before the mind can catch up what was about to happen. I grabbed the door handle, she said on the recording. Not to get out. We were moving. I grabbed it because it was the only solid thing I could reach, and I did not want to die without holding on to something real. The room was completely silent except for her voice. At the 12-minute mark, she said, "If you are watching this and I am no longer able to tell you myself, then you already know what happened. I want you to know I was not confused. I was not unstable. I was not the version of me that he told everyone I had become. I was always in here. I just needed someone to look in the right direction." Sarah closed the laptop slowly. Ethan looked at the whiteboard. Then he looked at the clock. 18 hours until the wedding. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Silence. Then Adrian Wolf's voice, pleasant and level, as if they were resuming a conversation that had been briefly interrupted. "Officer Cole," he said, "I think we should speak directly. Don't you?" Every nerve in Ethan's body organized itself around the sound of that voice. He kept his own voice completely neutral. "Mr. Wolf, I want you to understand something," Adrian said. "I am not a man who responds well to interference. I want to be transparent with you about that, because I think transparency is more productive than the alternative." "I appreciate that," Ethan said. "Lena is not well. I am sure the people she has spoken to have painted a particular picture. She has a documented history of anxiety-related distortion. It is genuinely heartbreaking to watch someone you love misremember things." A pause. "I have letters from her previous therapist. I have documentation going back 18 months. "Documentation you prepared," Ethan said. A brief silence. When Adrian spoke again, his voice had not changed, but something behind it had. "I love her, and I'm going to marry her tomorrow, and whatever story is being constructed around me right now, I promise you it will not survive contact with the facts as they are documented." "I look forward to reviewing all of it," Ethan said. "I am sure you do." Another pause. "I hope the dog is well. German shepherds are remarkable animals, very loyal. It would be a shame if that kind of loyalty ever put an animal in a difficult position." The call ended. Ethan lowered the phone. Sarah was already looking at him. What did he say? He referenced Rex. The silence in the room turned hard. Sarah stood up. "That is a threat." "Yes. That is a mistake. Because now I have grounds to document intimidation of an officer." He will say it was a casual comment. Let him say it. She was already typing. "We now have 47 files of evidence, a witness account of pre-impact screaming, a clinical observer, a documented pattern across multiple relationships, and a man who just called a law enforcement officer to imply a threat against his service animal." She looked at Ethan. "I am calling the state attorney right now." Ethan looked at Ryan, who had been silent through the entire phone call. "You should go somewhere he does not know about," Ethan told him. "A friend's place, not a hotel." "I am not leaving town," Ryan said. "I know, I just need you somewhere safe tonight." Ryan stood up. He was steadier now than he had been at the diner, the way people get steadier once they have a direction to move in, instead of just fear to sit inside. "She trusted me," he said. 16 years old, and she told me I was better than I was showing. I have been trying to prove she was right ever since." He left his number on Sarah's desk and walked out. Sarah's call to the state attorney lasted 19 minutes. Ethan listened to half of it and spent the other half standing with Rex in the hallway, hand resting on the dog's back, thinking about a woman on a hotel floor with no recording, no paper trail, no one willing to look at what was directly in front of them. He thought about what Lena had said in that video. "I was always in here. I just needed someone to look in the right direction." Sarah came out of her office with her coat already on. "The state attorney is reviewing the files tonight. She wants everything documented and filed by 6 in the morning. She said if the evidence holds the way it looks, she can have a judge on the phone before 9. "The ceremony is at 10, Ethan said. "Then we have a 90-minute window." "That is not enough margin." "I know." Sarah looked at him directly. "So tomorrow morning we are going to need to be in position before 9. All of us. Because if that paperwork does not come through in time, we need to be close enough to act on whatever we see." Ethan nodded once. He drove back past the hotel on his way home. He did not stop. He just slowed enough to look at its lit windows and think about which one might be hers, and whether she was sleeping, and whether the card was still in the lining of her shoe, and whether she had watched the clock the same way he was watching it now. Rex sat in the back seat and watched the hotel too. "Tomorrow," Ethan said to the dog, to himself, to the lit windows and whatever was behind them. He did not sleep that night. He simply waited for morning to come and bring with it whatever it was going to bring. And somewhere in that building, the woman who had spent 2 years learning to be silent was doing the same thing. The state attorney called at 5:47 in the morning. Ethan was already dressed, already standing, already had Rex leashed and ready at the door, the way you are when you have not actually slept, but have simply waited in the dark for the night to end. Sarah answered on speaker. The attorney's name was Carol Vance, and Ethan had never met her, but he had heard her name attached to 3 cases that had ended with people who thought they were untouchable, sitting in courtrooms looking confused about how the world had changed on them. I reviewed everything, Carol said. Her voice was the voice of someone who had also not slept. The video recording, the photographic evidence, the cloud files, Dr. Alvarez's clinical notes, Gerald Pratt's original statement combined with his telephone account, Maya Torres's documented testimony through the advocacy network. And, Sarah said, and I have a judge on standby. I need 45 more minutes to finalize the emergency protective order application. If the judge signs it, you can serve it before the ceremony begins. Ethan looked at the clock, 6:02. The ceremony was at 10. 45 minutes, he said. Maybe less. The judge has reviewed a summary. He is not unsympathetic. Carol paused. Officer Cole, the video your witness recorded, the 12-minute one. Yes. That woman is one of the most composed and credible witnesses I have encountered in 19 years of doing this work. Whatever else happens today, I want you to know that. Ethan did not trust himself to say much. I will tell her. He ended the call and looked at Sarah. We move at 8, she said. Positioned outside the hotel by 8:15. If the order comes through, we serve it immediately. If it does not come through by 9:45. Then we find another way, Ethan said. Rex shook himself once and sat down and waited. Which was what Rex always did when there was nothing to do, yet but prepare. The order came through at 7:19. Sarah read it twice to make sure. Ethan read it once, which was enough. An emergency protective order barring Adrian Wolfe from contact with Lena Hart, paired with a separate judicial authorization to conduct a welfare check with authority to remove Lena from the premises if she expressed a desire to leave, and Adrian attempted to prevent it. Carol Vance had also, in the 45 minutes she had been given, managed to flag the pre-signed medical power of attorney document to the state's Elder and Dependent Adult Abuse Division for a parallel investigation. 45 minutes. Ethan filed that away under the category of people who were exceptional at their work. He called Ryan at 7:22. The order is signed, he said. I need you at the hotel's east side entrance at 8:30. You are not coming in. You are there in case we need you. Ryan said, in case of what? In case Lena needs a face she trusts when she comes out. A pause. Okay, Ryan said. I will be there. Ryan, if something looks wrong, if anything feels wrong, you call me and you do not move. I understand. I mean it. You are not a backup officer. You are a familiar face. That is your whole job today. I understand, Ethan. He believed him. They arrived at the hotel at 8:14. Sarah went through the main entrance to speak with hotel management, carrying the protective order and the judicial welfare authorization in a folder that she held with the particular grip of a person who understood how much weight paper could carry. Ethan took Rex around to the side where the event staff entrance was, where deliveries came and went, and where no one would pay particular attention to a man and a dog moving through a working building. He had been inside for 4 minutes when his phone buzzed, a text from the secondary number. From Lena. It said he knows something is wrong. He locked the room door from the inside and he has my wheelchair. Ethan stopped walking. He knows something is wrong. Not he knows about the order. Not he found the evidence. He knows something is wrong, which meant Adrian Wolfe, who had spent 2 decades refining his ability to read the people around him, had felt the shift in the air, the way certain animals feel, weather changes before instruments can measure them. Ethan texted back, do not argue. Agree with everything. We are in the building. He called Sarah immediately. He has locked her in the room, he said. He has taken the wheelchair. Sarah's voice changed into something flat and immediate. Room number... I do not have it. I am at the front desk right now. A pause, brief, less than 10 seconds. Room 612. Ethan, the manager, is saying Adrian Wolf checked in under a corporate reservation that has a no-disturbance rider attached to it. The protective order supersedes a hotel policy. I know that. The manager knows that. I am moving. He was already moving too. Rex keeping pace beside him without being told, both of them heading for the stairwell because the elevator was too slow and too visible and too easy to intercept. They took the stairs at a controlled run 4 flights and emerged onto the 6th floor at 8:29, and Sarah came around the corner from the elevator at the same moment, folder in hand. 2 hotel security officers behind her who looked uncertain in the way people look when they are being asked to do something they have never done before. Ethan moved to the door of 612. He could hear nothing from inside. He knocked. Firm. Professional. Mr. Wolf, this is Officer Ethan Cole. I am here with Detective Sarah Mitchell. We have a court order. Please open the door. Silence. Rex sat at his left knee completely still, his nose working the air at the base of the door. Then, Adrian Wolf's voice from directly the other side of the door, calm and almost conversational. Officer Cole, I was wondering when this would happen. Open the door, Mr. Wolf. Lena is resting. She asked not to be disturbed before the ceremony. Mr. Wolf, I have an emergency protective order issued by a state court judge this morning. You are required by law to open this door. A pause. May I ask what grounds? Open the door and I will explain everything. Another pause, longer this time. Ethan counted the seconds. At 7 seconds, Rex shifted his weight slightly forward, which was the specific movement he made when something behind a door was moving toward it. The lock turned. Adrian Wolf opened the door and stood in the frame in a white dress shirt, and he was exactly as Ethan remembered him. Composed. Handsome. Wearing the expression of a man who had been interrupted during something reasonable. Thank you, Ethan said. He stepped forward. Adrian did not move. I would like to see the order, Adrian said. Sarah held it up without giving it to him. You can see it clearly from where you are. We need to see Ms. Hart. She is in the other room. Then please step aside. Adrian looked at Ethan for a moment, the look of a man taking a measurement. Then he looked at Rex, who was looking back at him with the kind of patient intensity that had nothing aggressive in it, and was somehow more unsettling because of that. Adrian stepped aside. Lena was sitting on the edge of the bed. She was dressed in a white blouse and dark slacks, not a wedding dress, which told Ethan that at some point in the last 12 hours, she had made a decision about that without telling anyone. Her wheelchair was against the far wall, which put it out of her immediate reach, which was not an accident. Her hands were folded in her lap, and she was holding them very still in the particular way she had. When she saw Ethan, something moved across her face so fast, it was almost not visible. But he was watching for it. Lena, he said. My name is Ethan Cole. I am here with Detective Mitchell. We have a court order. You do not have to stay here. Adrian said from behind him. Lena, sweetheart, you do not have to say anything. These people are acting on incorrect information, and it will be resolved very shortly. Lena looked at Adrian. Then she looked at Ethan. I know, she said. And it was perfectly clear she was not speaking to Adrian. She reached toward her wheelchair. Adrian moved not toward her. Just a weight shift, a repositioning, the kind of movement that was designed to remind her of his presence without being actionable. Rex stepped forward and placed himself between Adrian and Lena's path to the wheelchair with the quiet exactness of an animal who understood the geometry of what was happening. Adrian went still. Lena reached her wheelchair and put herself into it with the practiced efficiency of someone who had been doing it alone for 2 years, and she turned it to face the room, and for the first time since Ethan had walked through that door, she was at the center of her own space, rather than at the edge of someone else's. I want to leave, she said, clearly, to the room. Lena? Adrian's voice had changed, not loudly, never loudly, but there was something beneath the pleasantness now, a pressure, like a hand pushing against a surface from the other side. Everything we have built... Adrian. Her voice did not shake. Stop. He stopped. Sarah stepped forward. Mr. Wolf, I am serving you with this emergency protective order as of right now. You are to have no contact with Ms. Hart. Additionally, I am informing you that the State Attorney's Office has opened an investigation into a medical power of attorney document prepared under your instruction prior to this marriage. You may wish to contact your attorney. Adrian looked at the folder. He looked at Lena. He looked at Ethan. And for the first time since the lobby, since the coastal path, since Rex had frozen and turned his amber eyes towards something that was wrong, Adrian Wolf had no prepared expression to put on his face. What was underneath was small and cold and very old. "This is not over," he said. Ethan held the door open. "For today it is." Ryan was at the east entrance when they came out the way he had said he would be, exactly where Ethan had told him to be. He saw Lena come through the door in her wheelchair, and he went toward her, and he said her name the way people say names, when they are relieved in a way that has nothing to do with words. And Lena looked up at him and put her hand out, and he took it, and that was a whole conversation that needed no translation. Sarah was already on the phone with Carol Vance, walking a tight circle, giving updates in the clipped shorthand of someone transmitting information faster than normal speech. Ethan stood with Rex and watched. Dr. Maria Alvarez arrived 20 minutes later. She had driven directly from her office the moment Sarah texted her. She came through the hotel entrance and crossed to Lena without rushing, without drama. And she crouched down to eye level, and she said something quiet that no one else could hear. Whatever she said, Lena's shoulders came down for the first time. They went down slowly, like something under too much pressure, finally being allowed to decompress. And Lena put her face in her hands for a moment, just a moment, and then she lifted it again, and she was still there, still present, still herself. Adrian Wolf was arrested at 11:40 that morning on charges that Carol Vance had spent the preceding 5 hours building with the precision of someone who did not intend to have them dismantled. Domestic violence by means of controlled coercion. Criminal negligence related to the accident 22 months prior. Tampering with legal documents. The investigation into Maya Torres's case was reopened the same afternoon by a different office in a different county, and Isabella Torres, who had withdrawn a burglary complaint 3 years earlier, under circumstances that had never been adequately explained, agreed to give a new statement. The medical power of attorney document was voided before noon. It took 3 weeks for Lena to move into a transitional apartment that Dr. Alvarez helped her find. It took longer than that to begin the process of rebuilding the things that had been systematically dismantled around her. Her medical team, her support network, her own steady belief in what she knew to be true about herself. Ryan visited twice a week and never once made it about himself, which was the most useful thing he could have done. Gerald Pratt gave his full statement to the state attorney's office and said afterward that he had been waiting to say it for almost 2 years and felt considerably lighter for having done so. 6 weeks after the morning at the hotel, Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from a number he now recognized. It said, "I testified today." "I thought you should know." He texted back, "How did it go?" Her response came after a pause long enough that he thought she might have put the phone down. Then I did not look away from him once. He read it twice. Rex was lying across his feet under the desk and lifted his head as if he had heard something which was impossible and was also somehow exactly right. Ethan typed back, "I never doubted you." Another pause. Then I know. That was the thing that made the difference. There were no more messages that night. There did not need to be. Some things find the exact right shape, and then they are simply finished, and you do not need to add anything more to them. Lena Hart had spent 2 years learning to be invisible inside her own life. She had survived by being still, by being careful, by understanding that the person closest to her was also the greatest danger she had ever faced. And then one morning, a man running on a coastal path had stopped. A dog had turned and looked in the right direction. And someone had held out a card and asked if she needed anything and meant it and kept meaning it until it mattered. She had not been rescued. She had reached out her hand and found someone steady enough to hold on to. And when the moment came, she had been the one to look a dangerous man in the eye and say, "Stop." That was not a small thing. That was the whole thing.